Hey there, you're watching Bare Knuckle Binder. Welcome to the channel. Final week of prep for the giant trip I'm about to take with the 52 International Harvester L122 Coleman 4x4 conversion. I've got a bunch done since the last video. I've got a bunch left to do. Road tank right here. That's all sealed off, done, shortened, all that. I have some developments of stuff I can't get done before the trip. We'll talk about it, but in the meantime, let's get more into leaf springs because the suspension on this truck is something we've been dealing with a lot. The fronts are in, they're great. Taking some quick measurements to judge some progress and sag over the next 5,000 miles. And then I have to deal with the rear springs. So let's measure the front of the truck in two different spots and see where we're at. Okay, just to measure our progress with this thing. Okay. Front weld seam at the winch. This is probably the least scientific measurement because it's so far out of the axle. I don't know what the camera's picking up, but it looks about 30 1/4. Okay. Now just measuring sag and spring settle in here from the top of the plate. Let's see here. Let's do it this way. From that to the top of the spring is 10 11/16. It's hard to see, but I can see it. You're just gonna have to believe me. 10 11/16. So, meanwhile, at the back spring hanger, the ground was that? It's about 30 5/8. Or is that 11/16? On the camera, it looks like 11/16, and it's closer than my face is. 30 11/16 in the front. Now here in the back, this is the structural C-channel that is part of the Coleman conversion. Pretty scientific stuff, right? So now I've got to measure to this seam because this is obviously not. This is 6 inches lower. So this guy's about roughly 29 1/2. So that's a difference of a little over an inch, if I'm remembering what I just said. And so I think I'd like the rear up at that front spring hanger just about 1.5 inches or so. So I might just arch it to 2 inches. Give it a little bit of settle room there. I mean, I'm guessing the front's gonna settle a little bit. The rears should obviously settle more because I don't think I'm gonna put any springs in there. It depends on how thick those springs are. If they're the same size as the fronts, I think they're a little thicker than the fronts, but it could just be my eyes. I'm getting old. If they're the same size as the fronts, I might put a leaf or two in the back, but we're not there yet. So I'm gonna go take this out to level ground and pull these springs. All right, I'm just gonna touch really quickly on the rear leaf springs just because I'm in a huge time crunch now. It's Wednesday night. Not only do I have to get the truck done by Sunday, possibly Monday now. So obviously this is the top leaf spring from the other pack. This pack is still intact. Rhyming, unintentional. With the spring packs apart, it's the exact same arch pretty much, and which is impressive. Now, the interesting thing is that I measured these springs with the shackles at 45 degrees. Now, I find that if the shackle's at 45 degrees, when you put it on, then it'll, go right because you don't want it to pop up, which if you have too extreme of an arch, that can happen. So when I took these off, when I dropped the axle and everything, these things were sitting and the shackle was at 45 degrees or really close to. So I have an idea of how to get these on there. I think I can only really bring these things up to the point that they come in about 1/2 inch. And then I'm probably gonna stack some leaves on the bottom just to even out the truck. None of it's an ideal solution, but at this point it's kind of all I got. Basically, I'm up against something with the rear leaves, and Terrible timing for that. It would have been great last week sometime, but here we are. Quick check-in on these. This is the stock height of the worn out springs, and it's 10.5. I just got done re-arching this side, this pack, and I added one more leaf on the bottom from my spare set from the front, the leftover springs from re-arching the front, excuse me. With this comes up, it's pretty much exactly an inch taller. As you can see, there's not too much of an arch. This one's just about an inch shorter than this one now. As you arch them, obviously the eyes come closer together, but I can't go too far because I'm worried about being able to get the shackle back on it without it inverting. So this is where it's at. Looks like it's gonna be an inch of lift overall at the center of the spring, which should, yeah, I think it should help a lot. I don't know if it's gonna be enough for what I actually want. The truck's probably gonna sit just level. I could be wrong. Sometimes it's hard to tell until you get these things on there. But I could add another leaf underneath there, but it just feels like it might be too tall. I'm trying to avoid recutting the drive shaft if I can, but let's be daring. I'm gonna do it. Okay, I put the extra spring in here, this one right here. You can tell these are different because these are 5/16 and these are 1/4 inch thick. A little bit of a nick there. This is one thing I found when I was going through it. It's cracked just on the one side of the center, so I don't have time to find a replacement right now, so I am basically putting this one on the bottom. Not only it's a spacer, but it's actually gonna act kind of like a washer, so it's a little less stress on this thing. So the head of the bolt will be pushing on this instead of this, and this won't be sitting on the very bottom of the pack. When this trip is over, or even mid-trip, I might find some more leaf springs so that when I get back, I can tear these apart again. And, you know, some of these springs I'm not really super keen on. They're not in the greatest shape on this one side. This side looks a lot better, but this side I was running into a lot of problems. Even the center bolt was actually rusted in when I took them apart. Usually they just pop apart. But anyway, like I said, I don't have a lot of time to film all this, but this is where I'm at. So it looks like with this, we're gonna have about 1.25 inches of lift in the back. So we should be just about perfect. All right, so I'm gonna tear apart this spring pack now and get it matched to this one. Get them all PR15 hopefully by this afternoon, depending on how humid it is and cure time for PR15. I can get these back on the truck. In the meantime, I'm going to cut away to some video that I recorded earlier this week about other stuff on the truck. I figured I'd get in here before I get too far on this thing. This is how I'm shortening this gas tank. I already did it on that side. That side was rougher than this side, so this side will probably be a lot easier. It's cleaner. As long as I have it apart, just go through there and clean everything I can get my hands on. It's not really dirty, it's not rusty. That's just dust left over from the lye rinse. And it just, I mean, you could rub it off with your hand, but I just used a wire brush there. The trick to doing this is I will cut this thing here, 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 and here. And then I'll just clamp those pieces along the inside edges of this and just tack weld them in. And that will give me a backing for this when I weld it up, because that's 2 inches removed, 4 inches overall. And this will just go around it. So then that'll be 34 inches across, 35. I think it's 35 inches across. It's 35, that's what I need. Gotta keep track of a lot of stuff. Anyway, before I do any of this stuff, I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna get the body hammers, and I'm gonna clean up the edges and get them as true as possible, matched up with this. I'm gonna hit this with the body hammers too and straighten it out, but it's not as critical with this one because once you start clamping it in there, it will like knock out a lot of the bends. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. I'll bring it back when I'm got the inside tacked in, I guess. All right, so I'm in the garage. I've got the inner skin tacked in there, and I don't know if I mentioned it outside. I thought it was pretty obvious. I guess sometimes I miss stuff, but these inner pieces that are backing, that I'm using as a backing for the weld, this is just the space that I cut out, the 2-inch gap that I cut out of the tank. And since it was perfectly formed to the tank already, I mean, Obviously I had to tweak it a little bit because I wanted to fix the actual tank, but since they were so dang close to the actual size, I just use those instead of cutting new sheet metal and making strips that go around it. Works perfectly, and the kerf of the cutoff wheel actually gets it pretty darn close as you cut it. Otherwise, I'd have to cut it in one spot and then move the bends of the corners around, if that makes sense. So I just cut them in the centers here, and so it opens gaps in here, 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 and here. And so the corners, which are the hardest part to form, are left intact. So as you go around it, I use vice grips. And I just go around each one, and I go about probably 6 inches at a time and just clamp them up, then tack them, move another 6 inches and clamp them up and tack them. So the inside is ready, it's done. It's gonna take a little bit, just a tiny bit of finagling to get this thing just to go right on there. See, just that one corner. As you shape these things, tack them in there, heat moves them around a little bit. It's not exactly perfect, so I might have to go around this with a hammer and dolly just to bend these tabs down just slightly so I can get this thing on there. If push comes to shove, like on a corner or something, I can just cut and kind of fold it in a little bit to get it on there, but I don't think I'll have to do that. Anyway, as you see, I cleaned everything out as much as I could reach, saved myself a little bit of sloshing time when it comes time to actually coat this tank. When I get this thing back together, I'm gonna test it with water for any leaks around the welds. It didn't leak before, but you know, I've just welded 2 new caps on the ends. So I will test the welds for leaks with water. If I can solve a problem that exists now before I start running acid and coating it with the sealer, all the better. I think that for the most part, any tiny itty bitty leaks a sealer would take care of, but if you can take care of it ahead of time, it's best not to rely on the sealer. So anyway, I'm gonna get this welded on. I guess I'll bring it back and show it to you when I'm done, and then we'll just move on to the next thing. All right, a little dining room action here. This probably shouldn't even be on the table, but I wanted to mention real quick that this is the pedal pad, and if you have a 50 to 56, early 57 international truck, you got one of these. And if you've tried to seal up the cab, this is one of your sources of frustration. So here's what I did. If you order a floor mat kit online, the Repops or whatever, I have one in the truck right now, and it's great. I'm happy with it. But all they send you for this thing is a smooth sheet, apparently just to glue to the back. They don't send you this part. So yesterday, my buddy Caleb came over with his S120 4x4. It's had a Cummins swap in it, so it doesn't use this part. That part's all closed off. So I took his old floor mat and I cut this out. This is a smooth piece they send you with the aftermarket floor mat kit. And so I made a new piece of steel. I held it up to the old one, traced it out, made a new piece of steel. I glued it and clamped it overnight. I'm so happy with this thing. I think it looks awesome. I scrubbed the old floor mat with dish soap, and it took all the old dirt and stains and stuff out of it. However, I messed up because I didn't check the orientation when I glued it, and I got it backwards. So the pedals are over here, but they're supposed to be over here. This thing is glued on here. I use this stuff called, I think it's called Aqua Seal. And the stuff, I use it for repairing the soles of my boots. And if I can walk on that stuff for a month without it coming off, it'll hold this on here forever. So I can't just peel this thing off of here because it's already cured on here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around the edge, and I'm going to, probably with a flap wheel or something, smooth off these ribs around the edge so that this thing will seal, because this fluting will let fumes in. That's why the back of it has to be smooth. And so then this will become the back. It'll still have ribs in the center just because there's no sense in grinding them all off. So like I mentioned in the last video, I like to make a positive out of a negative. So I'm pretty proud of this one, but I took some time, and I had a bunch of other old floor mat pieces out in the garage. and I combined them and I inlaid this IH, and it will go right between the pedals. So the clutch and the brake will be right here. So let's see if you see it on the back, see how I cut it all out and inlaid it. So it's a composite of 2 different floor mats. So hopefully this will work out. Hopefully it won't stick up too much. I mean, it just adds like, what was that, like 1/16 of an inch or something. Just gotta make sure my clutch is adjusted right. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I'm gonna glue her down and I'll show it to you when it's on the truck. Just another one of my little detail things I'm doing to this thing.
All right, so things got crazy. I had to stop filming while I was getting the truck ready for the trip. We're currently climbing out of the Tahoe National Forest. The Holt brothers are behind us in Sweet Pea, and I'm just gonna cut to some footage now of everything that's leading up to this moment, and then we'll bring you back in. want to lift?
Hey, fellas and chica.
Yeah.
Pushed it back in, it broke so that the outside part wasn't hooked up, so it wouldn't go back in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you pulled it out, you had your throttle going full, your engine going full speed. Well, I was up heading for on 20, headed for Ghana with Lotus Boy Scouts. And we're cruising up the road, and you know, it's kind of like that. Yeah. My buddy that was with me decided it might be funny if I just cruise with this guy. So he reaches up and grabs that throttle and pulls her wide open. And that thing took off, and of course, you push it in and don't stop. Anyway.
Oh, I knew he was going to get that. It's a Milwaukee something.
060.
The battery?
522-060.
And then if I want to push it high, where else would go on? at the same time.
Are you taking off? Are you taking off or you can't?
About 687-133. 687-133. 687-133. All right, about 191-288. 191-288.
Give my kid a shot. She's looking.
CPT, Crawler Proven Technologies. Custom Scouts. Dana Incorporated. DNC Extreme. Delia Construction. DBF Custom Designs. Eldon McFarland. Eldon really wanted to be here, but you know, he's in the farming industry a little bit. They're harvesting right now, so he was not able to make it. 5 Scoutworks. Freedom Print Company. Hamilton Fuel Injection. Farming Customs. You still here, Phil? Holden Brothers, come on up. You guys all have to stick around that one. Yeah, for sure. Coffee to get you home, though. There we go. What a cool ass dude. I didn't have the all model toy truck.
Okay, so now we've gone through the Sierra Fall Rally. We are crawling our way out of the Tahoe National Forest on our way up to I-80 to cross over into Nevada. And we're going to spend the night tonight in Middlegate, Nevada. So everything's going great. The trip's going good. We've had a few little shakedown things with Sweet Pea, but Claudette's been running great. I had a few problems with the brakes on the way out, but everything's good now. And enjoy the trip. Let's see what happens.